Welcome back to Summer Hill. I'm so glad you came to join me today. I really wanted to show up today because a recent blog post I did is called Decorating with Ribbon and Bows. And I wanted to share that with you because that is such an easy, inexpensive, can be inexpensive way to add little touches to your decor that makes you feel so good inside. So let's get started and I will show you a bunch of ideas of how you can decorate with ribbon and bows. Okay, so whether you're decorating for holidays or seasons, or you just want to add a little special something to your decor, we're gonna go through a little bit of everything. So we're going to break this down by seasons, and then we're gonna talk about some holidays through there too. So to begin, since we're in the season of spring, I thought let's talk about spring and give you an example of how I use some spring decor and ribbon to decorate my home. So this first example that I'm going to show you here is a spring tablescape I did in a French country style. And I simply just used a dough bowl. I put some dried flowers in it. In this example, I used lavender. And then I tied it with a bow. This is such an easy tablescape that you can create it. You can leave it out all year long, or it can be left out for spring or summer, or you could do it for a dinner party. So this is an easy one that you can create just with any kind of ribbon. My next example is using ribbon to hang wreaths on your wall. And this is another idea that you can leave out year-round, or you could pop it up for spring. The beauty of this is if you have I call it an evergreen wreath, a wreath that can fit into all holidays, all seasons, then you can change out the ribbon to kind of go with the season. For the next example, I want to show you a beautiful way to use ribbon with your art in your home. This is another idea that you can use year-round, or you can use it seasonally. So I have this piece of art of these bunnies that I love. I've had them for years. But in my kitchen sitting room, I have these hooks. And I don't want to hang the art on the wall when I have these hooks. So I simply took a velvet piece of ribbon that's in a neutral blue color, kind of a blue-green color, and I staple gunned it. I used a staple gun to attach it to the back of the frame, and then I can hang the art on a hook. So here's an idea of using ribbon with your art. Now, let's move forward in time to fall, because fall is a great time to use ribbon, and I have some fun tips on decorating with ribbon during the fall season. So the first example I want to show you is this bunny rabbit that hangs out in my house year-round, but he gets seasonal decor through the year because he has this cute little basket backpack. So I can stick things in there based off of holidays or seasons, and I can add a ribbon with his existing tie. So for this particular season, I bought a set of ribbons from Amazon, and I will make sure to put a link in the description to the blog post, because in that blog post are all the links to the different things that I'm talking about here. And this ribbon set is so fun to have and use during the fall. And they have spring ones and other ones too. So I used one of these for him, and then you'll see later where I use some of the other colors on other pieces in my house. If you have somebody like Hamilton, that's the name of my bunny rabbit, give him some style and dress him up with a ribbon. So my next idea is also dressing up a piece of decor. And then this is who we call Carrie. It's a silhouette that I picked up at a gift shop while I was touring Nashville, Tennessee. And she's actually named after the owner of the home that I toured. But Carrie, I felt like needed a little bit of style for the fall season. So I gave her another one of those ribbons in that set and made a cute little bow, and I basically just taped it to her bun. Now next are baskets, and you can easily add ribbon to your baskets to give it more style or bring it into the holiday or the season. I added this fall foliage to this basket that hangs on my bench. Sometimes I hang it on my mantle. In fact, it's on my mantle right there. So I just simply tied a bow with the ribbon that comes in that set from Amazon. And I used floral wire to thread through the back. And then I could stick the floral wire down into the basket and it holds the ribbon into place. But definitely think of baskets when you're decorating with ribbon. Oh, and I almost forgot, I have another example of a tiny little basket that stays in my kitchen, and it has a ribbon on it, and that ribbon stays on there year round. So it's not seasonal, it's there all year round. Okay, the one thing I wanted to mention is throughout this video, I may show you a concept I've talked about before, but show you it in another season. And here's an example of the tablescape. Remember the tablescape I showed you with the lavender and the bow on the lavender in the dough bowl? Well, here is an example of it during the fall season where I used dried wheat in the bowl, and I used ribbon to tie it together, and I placed it on my hutch. So definitely don't think you have to keep your decorations exactly where they are forever. You can move them around and give you that freshness, that like freshen up your space. Okay, so when it comes to winter, it's a little, I use ribbon a lot in the winter at Christmas. I did have one example that I felt like was a wintry example, and that's where I used the same velvet ribbon that I hung the art. I used that same ribbon and I made a pom-pom wreath, and that pom-pom wreath has a snowball look to it. So I thought it would be fun to give you that idea for winter. And you can see here where I styled it on top of some cutting boards that stay up there year round. Okay, so we've kind of gone through the seasons. So now we're gonna dial back and look at some holidays, starting with Valentine's Day. Here's a fun idea where I used ribbon on a mantle to make a garland. Just think about using some clear masking tape and drape some ribbon on your mantle. Use that tape to attach it. Make a bow, attach the bow in the middle, and then the tails that you have on the side, cut another piece and tape it so you have like two tails on the side. We jumped on the wagon of the whole bow sensation, and we created a bow garland. We created a pink one, a blue one, and a neutral colored one. So depending upon whatever you are wanting to decorate, whether it's a event or it's a season or holiday, this is an easy way to add a ribbon bow to your decor without even leaving home. So basically, you just pick out whatever color you want, you print it on your printer, cut it out, and then you can thread some ribbon or yarn or twine or whatever you want through it, and you have a bow garland. It's so easy and so cute. Okay, here's another fun idea, and this one is very customizable. So we have multiple pennant and other letter and number garlands in our Etsy shop. We have scalloped ones, we have pennant ones like this one, and etc. So you can add bows to that with ribbon to spice it up and give it more character, like this one here that I did at Valentine's Day. So I used actually yarn for these bows, but think about using ribbon for your bows, and you just attach them to the bottom of the pennant. So you can write whatever you want. I love you, happy birthday, welcome, baby, anything you want, and then just make little bows and attach them to the bottom. Okay, so this next idea I absolutely adore, and I keep it out year round, and this is tying a bow to a candle. I have tied a wider bow to a candle, and it looked good, but my favorite is a thinner bow, and this is like a 1/4 inch velvet ribbon. And I think the piece I cut is probably about 24 inches long. I tied it around and then let the tails trail down if they were too long. I can't remember, but I probably snipped them off so that they landed where I wanted. But this is such a cute and delicate detail that you can add to your candles with ribbon. One tidbit: I do not use this idea on a real candle. This is a battery powered candle, so I don't have to worry about it melting down to the ribbon and then catching the ribbon on fire. So do keep that in mind if you are going to use a real candle. I want to recommend a battery candle. That way you can leave it and forget it and you don't have to worry about it. Consider adding a bow to your wreath, like I did on this cute little Dollar Tree Easter egg wreath I made. And I simply just tied a bow and then I used a glue gun to attach it to the wreath I made. And this wreath is made with all Dollar Tree stuff. So definitely go check it out. It was fun to make, easy. I did it in one day. I had it hanging all in less than probably half a day. It took me half a day probably to do it. So definitely go check it out. Okay, next is Mother's Day, and I didn't want to leave this holiday out. You can hang multiple art, not just one piece of art, but multiple pieces with ribbon like I show here. And what's so cool about this project is each of those flowers that are in the frames are birth month flowers. So you can go to my Etsy shop, pick out each month of your mother's children. So if your mother has 3 children, like me, you can print out each month to whatever size you want, and then frame it in a little frame and attach them all with ribbon. And you have a special present that just means so much, that's so endearing, that you can give to your mom for Mother's Day. Okay, so this next project is also another nice surprise project for your mom, and that is putting together some flowers in a mason jar and then hanging them with ribbon on her front door, or you can hang them somewhere in her house. Okay, another idea of how you can use ribbon to decorate your home is by tying a bow around your lamps. This is something you can leave out year long, but in this example here, I used it for the 4th of July. Okay, so let's move forward to Halloween, because Halloween is so fun to decorate for. And here's an idea of using ribbon on a tablescape. So you can use this idea any time of year, but we used it for Halloween. We created this outdoor table in the woods, and all I did was take a paper napkin and I tied some gold ribbon around it so that it blended in with the decor on the table. This next DIY is a lot of fun, and it's using ribbon to make a garland. And then you can make this cute little garland for Halloween, or you could do this concept for Valentine's Day. You could do it for Easter. The options are endless. So definitely think about using ribbon to make garlands for Halloween. Okay, so next let's hop on over to Thanksgiving. And here's a fun idea where I made my own ribbon to decorate our table. So first of all, I grabbed these cute little pies from Walmart. I actually found them in the produce section, and they're individually packaged pies. They have apple pies and pumpkin pies and all kinds of different pies. I chose the apple ones. But basically, I took some flour sack napkins. I also got those from Walmart. And I cut a strip with it. And then I just kind of roughed up the edge to fray the edge. And then I tied that around the pie into a sailor's knot and then cut the ends. So that's how I added a ribbon to our Thanksgiving table. Another idea with ribbon on your Thanksgiving table is consider threading it through your centerpiece. So for this centerpiece, I had foliage coming out of a basket that was laying down on the table. And then I added some pumpkins and other things into it. But the way I kind of pulled that all together was with a ribbon. So in this picture, you can see the ribbon coming out of the front of the basket. But if you look in this picture, you can see how I came through the foliage and then just kind of trailed it down the basket on the other side to give that ribbon that nice swooping line from the ribbon across the tablescape. Okay, so since we're talking about tablescapes, let's talk about Christmas, because you can use ribbon on your tables at Christmas. A fun idea is to take your dishes, and you know how you stack your dinner plate and then your salad plate? Well, take and put your napkin down and then take a piece of ribbon and put it on top of that to give it some character and style. So that's another way you can use ribbon at a place setting. Next, consider using ribbon on your front porch at Christmas time. And I have to say that ribbon is such a natural when it comes to decorating for Christmas. I probably could do a whole video on different ways to decorate with ribbon at Christmas, but in lieu of time, we're just gonna hit a few. This idea on my front door is a Home Depot project I did. I went to Home Depot and I bought all the items I needed to make these bells. But the bow I bought on their website. The bow already came assembled. All I had to do was attach it. So if you love Home Depot, here's a DIY that you can do with everything purchased from the store. Okay, so next is this sled that was also on my front porch for Christmas. And this bow is a different kind of bow. And my neighbor wonderfully taught me how to do this years and years ago. And maybe sometime we can have her on here and she can show us all how to make this bow, because it is so beautiful. Okay, so don't forget Christmas trees when it comes to ribbons and bows. This first one is pulling the same ribbon from the wreath down onto the little tree on my front porch by tying a bow on the top. Another fun way to add a festive look during the Christmas holidays to your decor is simply by repeating that same that same ribbon onto jars. So here's where I tied the ribbon around a jar in my kitchen. And what you don't see here is I actually have that ribbon on some greenery on top of my hood. So that repetition is a good element and principle of design when it comes to decorating your home. So repeat that ribbon or repeat those colors over and over. Okay, so earlier I talked about adding ribbons to candles, but I don't want to leave this one out because I love adding candles to my Christmas tree at Christmas. These are real candles. I do not light them. I would not recommend lighting them. But this year I added a bow to every candle on the tree, and how precious it turned out. So definitely consider adding a bow to your candles. Other ideas are you can weave ribbon around your tree, like tucking it in and out as you go around the tree. You can have a big bow at the top and trail the ribbon down the tree. The options are endless, so definitely think about using ribbon when you're decorating your Christmas tree. Also, don't forget to repeat that ribbon onto your mantle. There's so many different ways you can do that. You can do it through the garland on top of the mantle, or you can tie a beautiful bow like I did here on the end of a garland, the bell garland. This bow was a great way to kind of put an end to that garland that was stopping midway, like it wasn't ending somewhere. So I put those bows on there to give it a stop point. So this year I decided to add sconces to each side of my mirror in my entryway. And I picked these basic kind of industrial looking sconces because I thought they would be a fun way to add decor throughout the year. So at Christmas time, I added some greenery and bows to the sconces to dress them up. So here's another way you can use ribbon to decorate a sconce on the wall. And next, since we've already talked about using ribbon on your mantle, here's another idea of where I hung some old skates as the centerpiece on my mantle garland. And then I added a blue velvet ribbon to it. And I repeated that blue in other places in the room, including the Christmas tree. So that year, my Christmas decor centered around the color blue, and I have a whole blog post on how to decorate for Christmas with the color blue. And last but not least is Christmas presents. Don't forget to include some ribbon on some or all of your Christmas presents. It's another way of tying in that same ribbon fabric that you've selected. You could even make your own ribbons with fabric that you've thrifted or fabric that you pick up at the fabric store. So definitely use some ribbon underneath your tree on your presents. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed all these ideas on decorating with ribbon and bows. And if you thought of an idea I didn't mention, please feel free to share in the comments so other people can get some inspiration and ideas from you. So here are a few final thoughts that I thought would wrap this all up into one nice bow. Did you get that? Did you see that there? So first of all, you might be thinking, where do I keep all this ribbon? And that is a good question. I do store some of my, let me back up. In the past, I have stored ribbon that I use specifically at holidays in that tub in the attic. It hasn't damaged it. It's held up really good. So that is one way you can store it. Another way is if you have a craft closet or a craft room, dedicate a drawer to all your ribbon. That is another idea. Or if you're lucky enough to have a place with these dowel rods, you can hang your ribbon on dowel rods, and that is a convenient way to store your ribbon. I have recently converted one of my closets in my house to a craft closet. And I have an idea of how I'm going to hang some rods in there to hang my ribbon. So hopefully in the near future, I will be sharing a video on how I did that. And it was my idea, keep my fingers crossed, my idea is gonna be very easy. So that is another idea. Also, I wanted to throw in a few last tidbits about decorating with ribbon. So it's just like decorating with the fabric on your pillows or the fabric on your curtains, different, or even your throw. Think of color, think of style. So if your style is a very formal look, then think about more formal fabrics for your ribbons, like satins. Satins are more formal. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use satin when you are decorating in a more informal setting. Sometimes throwing in something unexpected brings life and character to a design, like I showed you the outdoor Halloween tablescape. So even though that tablescape wasn't necessarily formal, I threw in that satin ribbon to give it something whimsical. So think about that. Also, think about repetition. If you use the ribbon on the mantle, repeat that same ribbon on the tree. If you use the same ribbon on a jar in your kitchen, repeat the same ribbon on greenery somewhere else in the room. You see where I'm going with this? So don't be afraid of repeating the same ribbon over and over. And don't be afraid of moving that same ribbon from one room to another to another. That almost ties room to room to room by doing that. Okay, last, I want to talk about that it's the little details that take things from being ordinary to extraordinary. And ribbon helps you with that. It helps bring it to a little more extraordinary. So think about that. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up everything. Again, I thank you so much for joining me here at Life on Summer Hill. And I hope you've been inspired, and I really hope you go grab some scissors right now and some ribbon and start decorating. Have a wonderful day, and thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye.